It's October 1. Ukraine Media Center starts its operation. My name is Svetlana Cheparenko, and today is the Day of the Defenders. And availing ourselves of this opportunity, we would like to congratulate all those who defend our homeland against the enemy and those who have laid their lives for our freedom and independence. So today we are going to discuss the changes in the battlefield and defense legislation. Joining us in the studio is Fedir Venislavskyi, member of the Verkhovna Rada Committee on National Security, Defense and Intelligence. Good afternoon, Mr. Fedir. Good afternoon. I would like to join all the good words in honor of our defenders, the Cossacks, and I hope all the saints will help us to win over our enemy. So let's start with the most optimistic news shared by Mr. Kalak, as if Mr. Trump has allowed in-depth strikes into the depths of Russia. So can you provide any comments of this information? Is there any real permit, and what is it going to yield us? Well, let's first put the accents. Ukraine is already fulfilling deep strikes using its own capabilities, using those systems that Ukraine is manufacturing. They are already inflicting strikes in the depths of Russian territory, and according to the latest information, about 30% of Russian refinery is already lost. And I think this is what can force Putin's regime to understand that the war has to be over under fair conditions, fair for Ukraine, with the security guarantees. Well, talking about your question, I would recommend rather to wait until those capabilities arrive that will allow us to inflict strikes in the depth of 12 to 1,500 kilometers in the depth of Russian territory. Yes, there were talks with the advisor to the President of the United States. The President of the United States understands that Putin is an unreliable negotiator as a leader of an aggressive country. The only thing that may force him to understand the losses is the infliction of strikes over the legit military targets in the depth of Russian territory. Even those strikes inflicted on the oil refineries are already causing discontent within Russia. There are lies, there are accused, there are petroleum bills. So if we get the capabilities that will allow us to inflict strikes in that depth up to 1,500 kilometers, I'm sure that it will force Russian authorities to sit at the negotiation table and start negotiating fair conditions of the ceasefire. But as long as we don't have those capabilities, so far those are only plans, so let's wait until we receive them and our armed forces can use them for the first time, and we will get a more optimistic outlook for our fight for independence. In order to inflict such strikes, Ukrainian defense businesses need money, need funds. So let's discuss the defense budget. First of all, the year is almost through. So what is your evaluation of this year's defense budget? How justified is the amount budgeted? The amount budgeted for the security and defense sector within the years of war is way smaller than the real, not even the minimal critical, but the real necessity of the security and defense sector. Because as we were discussing it with your colleagues, the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine last year set forth its need, which is 5 times higher than the amount budgeted in the state budget of Ukraine for the year 2026. And the proportion is like maybe not 5 times as high, but probably 2 to 3 times higher, is basically something that can be applied to all of the security and defense sector. Security and defense sector has the priority in terms of its support, and any government expenses related to the security and defense sector are supported by the parliament almost unanimously. But in order to fund the defense budget, we need to find the sources of proceeds. All of the proceeds of the state budget are spent for the security and defense sector. Social sphere, education are funded at the expense of the foreign borrowings that Ukraine keeps finding. And the parliament also supports all of the initiatives of the government, and the presidents will ratify all of the agreements aiming at raising grant funds in order to fund the budget deficit. That's why the amounts allocated for the security and defense sector, now that we're waging a war against a country with way bigger material, human, and logistical resource, is incredible. But thanks to the support of our foreign partners, the proceeds, and thanks to the Ukrainian businesses, the proceeds from that tax payments are constantly increasing. By this year, we've adopted some amendments to the budget for the year 2025, and if there is a need of additional funding of the security defense sector, there will be more initiatives that we are going to support. But for the upcoming year, we budget the minimum need of the security and defense sector. We support it until the second reading. The draft of the state budget has already gotten the amendments in order to redistribute the allocations for the security defense sector that can be supported by the people's deputies. But again, now we're in the middle of the negotiations with the Western partners, so they could change their position when it comes to the possibility of use of the foreign borrowings, not only for the social and cultural sphere, but also for the security and defense sector. The Ministry of Defense, the President personally, Parliamentary democracy, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs are working intensely on this topic, and we have good chances to ensure that the NATO countries, EU countries in their budget contemplate the amounts that they will allocate to the security defense sector of Europe, because now Ukraine is facing the threats which are about to be faced by all of the European Union. So synergy of all those areas, all those points of efforts will yield certain effect, and we will transform them into the real needs stated by the security and defense sector. Among others, the government contemplated the so-called defense reserve within an amount of 200 billion hryvnia. Why do we need it, and where does the money come from?
We discussed this question on the during the meeting in the Security Council, and with Mr. Shmigal, and he outlined those sources that will allow us to use those mechanisms I mentioned and cover these demand. And this reserve. This is a certain reserve that the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine is, by decision of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, will be allocated to those most important demands or requirements, because the war that we are conducting the fourth year, and we will require technical improvements or other financial influx, and we are financing those means of strike weapons that are the most efficient. And for these specific requirements, that's where these these funds are allocated for. And I say again, I would like to emphasize that any kind of possibilities of financing the defense sector, there is an understanding where those sources, where those potential sources are. These numbers will be increasing because of the current situation. So you touched upon the our own production of the weapons and material. The president announced a creation of some complexes The law project that we call Defense City, this project will affect all kinds of legal spheres in different production domains, and the weapons, the arms, the military material. All these questions will be in complex. They will be resolved in a more efficient way. Secondly, we in these laws, in these project laws, we tried to resolve the issue of the defense from the point of view of our own production, Ukrainian production. Unfortunately, fourth year into the war, we are facing a phenomenon that everybody is. The components that we need are actually could be acquired from open sources. We stopped it. We put some measures in place, and we are tracking those productions. Those prototypes of arms and weapons are very important for the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, and they are via this project. It will be possible to track and observe how these productions are being implemented. And these law projects that were introduced by the party servant of people, that they will allow us to increase and improve the development of the defense sector of Ukraine. Not all of the things that we wanted to introduce in these laws, we could put them there. However, if we are foreseeing some kind of customs benefits, we understand that we are meddling with the competition of the free market, but we are ready to sacrifice this much in order to support our productions here in Ukraine. What about those 22, 25 young people, young men that were allowed to go abroad? How this law, how efficient was this law? This is a cabinet ministers of Ukraine resolution, and it allows to cross the border for the young men 22, 25 who are military capable, and this initiative was supported by all the authorities, including the local authorities and the parliament. However, we are experiencing a delay effect because a significant portion of those who left Ukraine has already returned, and this has to be taken into account too. Also, we are seeing this phenomenon that parents that tried to put their children basically abroad, and we were prognosing. We were making prognosis that some of the people that we are talking about, those are 22, 25 years old, they do not affect the situation in Ukraine in a significant way because they are not yet militarily. They are not drafted to the army yet, and this decision was made within the frame of preparation for the future, what's coming after the war, and those requirements, and they are not. they are not fitting, they're not equivalent to what basically the state requires in the first place. So, the threatening this phenomenon, this process does not have any kind of threatening form or is posing a threat to the future. And situationally, however, maybe some kind of disbalances, maybe some productions, some fields of production of Ukraine are complaining that they are lacking young workers in their industries. And however, I think we need to wait a little bit. For example, I think that in a year, maybe in a year and a half, we will be seeing first results that we will be capable of analyzing from the point of view of statistically acquired the statistically meaningful data. And right now it's really hard to say, but in my own personal opinion, this is a correct decision. So we cannot allow our country to transform into some kind of closed country during the war. So the changes or concessions, were there some kind of concessions in terms of the law?
Well, currently the Parliament didn't get any request from the Ministry of Defense or the Commander-in-Chief, any requests when it comes to the changes of procedures for mobilization. We've already ensured the legislative background. When it comes to the pace of mobilization, it's better to talk to the representatives of the Ministry of Defense, General Staff. According to the information that is being disclosed by the President, the mobilization processes are at the same level. About 30,000 citizens of Ukraine per year are being conscripted. So there are no drastic fluctuations when it comes to numbers or other aspects. Everything is going according to the plan as contemplated by the relevant legislation in the area of mobilization and defense. Thank you, Mr. Fedir. Let me remind you, we were discussing the changes in defense legislation and the battlefield, and Ukraine Media Center will continue tomorrow. Thank you for staying tuned. Thank you.